Well, hello there and welcome. Thank you for joining us for this Satori Software webinar, The Tracking Advantage. I'm actually really excited about this one. Tracking is something that I have been wanting to learn about. And of course, we've got Bob and Kim here who are the experts in this area. And so I'm super excited. I'm going to learn right along with you. Before we get started, let's cover just a couple of very quick housekeeping items. I want to throw these out there just so you're aware of them. If you participate in social media, and well, who doesn't these days? Even Bob tweets these days. You can connect with Satori Software via Twitter, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook. At the end of the presentation here, we've got the various tags that you're going to need to connect with us. Next, this webinar is being recorded, and I will post the recording on the SatoriSoftware.com webinars section shortly after the broadcast. So by this afternoon, Seattle time, I'll have it posted up there if you'd like to pass it along to someone or maybe view it again because, well, Kim said something intriguing and you want to go along with that. Okay, now this one is the most important. Over on the right-hand side of your screen there, you've got a question box. Please enter questions there. These webinars have been a lot of fun because we get to play the Stump Bob and Stump Kim game, and even every once in a while I get to answer a question, so that's kind of fun. But please enter questions in there. I will be collecting those questions and then throwing a few of them out randomly, just trying to trip up Bob and Kim during the course of the broadcast, but we'll collect a whole bunch of those questions and go into them at the end. So feel free, throw them out there. We'll go through and I won't put you on the spot. I won't call you out, but I will make sure your question gets answered. So that's what this is all about, is getting questions answered. And so enter them in there. We would love to have them. No such thing as too many questions. And related to that, we're currently scheduled to run around 60 minutes with this webinar. We want to be respectful of your time. So if you have to drop off at the 60-minute mark and it turns out that we have buried Bob and Kim with questions, we're going to go ahead and run over. We'll continue to answer those. As I mentioned, the webinar will be recorded and it'll be posted up on SatoriSoftware.com. So you can come back and pick up those questions. So like I say, please feel free to inundate us with questions. We always have a good time with that. And Kim has got a big smile on her face, so I know she agrees with that. Speaking today, well, we've got Bob Shimmick, and Bob, well, he's the Senior Director of Postal Affairs for Satori Software, and of course, Bob does our Postal Affairs program, which is a Monday morning briefing on our blog. It's an audio program where he talks about everything you need going into the mailing week. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you.
Good to have you back. Now, you are coming to us from the center of the known mailing universe. That would be La Crosse, Wisconsin, right?
That would be correct, yes.
Bob's really actually only here in the Seattle headquarters about, well, what do you say, a week, a month, something like that these days?
Sometimes I get up to 2 weeks.
And so he does come to us from some strange places sometimes, but right now he's at our La Crosse office. Also, and actually here in the studio, her smiling face sitting across the table from me is Kim Mock, and she's a senior product manager for Satori Software, product owner for all the stuff we're going to talk about here. Isn't that right, Kim?
That's right.
You would be the expert, the pro from Dover, and so when these questions come in, you're going to be the one that we're likely throwing those at, right?
We'll see. Bob knows a lot about this stuff too. It'll be a good conversation.
This is great because Bob actually knows the whole regulatory. He's got his fingers plugged in. He's out traveling around. He's in Washington, D.C. You do as well, but you spend a lot more time here in the office, and you are actually involved with the product development side of things. So you're going to give us, Bob's going to talk about the tracking side of things from the USPS standpoint, and you're going to talk about it from the product standpoint. So I am just super excited about this particular webinar. This one is one that I have been looking forward to. I am Rob Perrin, Director of Multimedia Marketing for Satori Software, and I will be your host today. Once again, if you've got questions, enter them in, and I'll be sitting in the background here sifting through those, getting them ready. Well, what do you say, Kim? Shall we get started? I think we should probably move on with your agenda. What do you got?
All right. Well, I'm actually going to kick it over to Bob because he's going to talk a little bit about the whole history of tracking. So, Bob, over to you.
All right. So, yes, before we kind of dive into it, we wanted to spend a little bit of time just talking about kind of the history of tracking from the Postal Service perspective, where it's been, where things are currently at right now, and then also what's coming in the future, because there's some exciting things to be talking about as far as what the Postal Service is looking to do when it comes to tracking. So for those, if we go back in time, prior to the Postal Service offering a tracking solution, when you mailed, a lot of times it was very much like kind of dropping your mail off at the Postal Service, and at that point it kind of entered a black hole, and you just hope that it came out on the other side somehow, some way. And if there were problems with your mailing, or you wouldn't know about it until days when you might have people calling to say, hey, if it was, a magazine that they were expecting, they might be calling to say, hey, where is my magazine at? If it was a marketing campaign that was time sensitive, you might have, the mailing that you did it for calling up and saying, hey, no one's calling the call center. Did the mail piece arrive? And you really had no visibility. And at that point in time, the only thing that you could really do is kind of pick up the phone and start calling around to various where you think that it might be, and say, have you seen my mailing, and has it gone out? And the tracking process was very manual. And so, a number of years ago then, from there, now the Postal Service offered its very first version of tracking. And so the very first version was called Confirm Service, and it was done by actually putting a second barcode on the piece. And so you ended up, for those that were participating in tracking back then, you actually put two different PostNet barcodes on it. One was the actual delivery point barcode that everyone's familiar with, and then the confirm barcode was also referred to as the Planet barcode, where it was really kind of the inverse of the PostNet barcode when it came to how you actually encoded it into the barcode. And that was kind of the solution for a number of years. And there were some people that didn't necessarily care for this type of approach, because it did take up one additional line on the address line, and that made it a little bit tighter to fit all the other information that a mailer potentially wanted on it. So then from there, we kind of went to the next generation, which is one code confirm, and this switched over to using the new intelligent mail barcode, which has the ability to contain a lot more information within the barcode, and then it started the process of cleaning things up. And then from one code confirm, now we have moved to essentially the current state, which is now it is known as IMB tracing. And so for those of you that are participating in full service, IMB tracing is one of the benefits of full service, and so you can receive the tracking data at no cost. But as I've noted here, it is just that. It is raw data. And so to give a little bit of background on where this is available, it's available in first-class mail, standard mail, and periodical mail, and it's available for letters and flats. And on the screen here, you can see that there's an example of the raw data, and essentially it's kind of showing where the piece was being processed, the operating code that was being run for that mail piece, and the time and date that it occurred. You may be looking at the date there and saying 2004. Wow, this is old. But actually, I did pull this off of the most recent version of the IMB tracing guides, and so it's just one of those things where this data has been provided in this form for quite a while now, and so it really hasn't changed a whole lot over time. And then with this, as I noted, this is just pure raw data, and so if you're trying to figure out, where is my mail piece, where is it going, where did it potentially get stuck, you actually need to have tools available that are going to allow you to kind of take the raw data and convert it into useful information. So now if we look at the different types of tracking that's available, when tracking first started, the tracking was being done at the piece level, and that was really the only thing that was available. One of the things that the Postal Service now is doing is building out additional visibility, where now they are also providing visibility into container scans, which would be pallet placards, and then also into trays. And then one of the other areas where there is a lot of lack of visibility, for example, particular with flat mail, the scan rates were not that you're seeing today are not that great because there's a lot of mail that doesn't necessarily go onto automated equipment, and that's where the scan data is coming from, is when it gets processed across the various automated equipment. So one of the things the Postal Service is doing to help provide additional visibility is actually now starting to also track at a bundle level and doing bundle level scanning that then can allow mailers to get additional information about the pieces of mail that aren't necessarily on automated equipment. So if we look at the existing system that is in place right now, when it was originally built, it was really designed for tracking at a sample level, where now that we have evolved from the original start of Confirm to the IMB tracing, where this data is being provided for every single mail piece in a full service mailing, the system was never designed to handle that type of volume, and there are definitely starting to run into some capacity issues associated with that. And one of the forms of the capacity issue is in the form of data latency. In today's world, it may take up to 48 hours for data to be provisioned to you after it's been scanned on a machine, which at that point in time, when you know the data is 48 hours old, it makes it far less actionable than if you knew, hey, I just got a scan on this, much more recently. It might be delivered where, you still might be 2 days, waiting 2 days to ultimately find out whether or not you got that final scan that says it was out for delivery. So to help address this issue around capacity and about the timeliness of the data being provided, the Postal Service is making a very large investment in a brand new platform, which they are referring to as Informed Visibility, and they refer to it as their IV platform. This is going to be their next generation tracking system that is really going to carry the Postal Service into the future, and this is the system that is going to be used by everyone. Ultimately, with this, when this new system is done, it's going to have the capacity to handle as much mail volume as is flowing through, and it's also going to have the ability to provide the data in what is being referred to as near real time. Well, some of the other things that the Postal Service is looking to do is also extend additional information around the events of out for delivery. Like right now, the last scan you get is when it was delivery point sequenced and then sent to the carrier. Well, the Postal Service is in the process right now of deploying a brand new scanner to every single postal employee that goes out and delivers mail, and they carry that with them. The other thing they've done is they've geofenced every single delivery point, and so coming soon, the Postal Service is going to have the ability to give you a final scan information that basically would say the carrier just drove by the mailbox, which means the piece should be there. And in this new system, they're looking to provide that, as I noted, in near real time, which means that near real time, they're looking at 15 to 20 minutes of when the carrier drove by that mailbox, you would be getting that scan information. And that's going to allow mailers to take a lot more action around these types of scanning events. For example, if they're looking to do a multimedia campaign, after they get that final scan that the mail piece is in the mailbox, that could kick off an email notification that would say, hey, when you get home today, check your mailbox. We've got a special offer for you. And so you can start combining the physical mail piece with other forms of digital advertising and to really get your customers' attention. Now, the build-out of this new Informed Visibility platform is going to take place in 3 major phases. And so the first phase is actively underway right now, and that is, the first phase is referred to as service performance and measurement. And so the first phase actually the first two phases are primarily geared for internal use specific for the Postal Service. So, they're using it for their own internal measurements and tracking. And then also the second phase of development is for mail inventory and predictive workloads. And so what they're looking to do is, as they get more and more tracking information and it being near real time, they're going to know the amount of mail that is sitting at various facilities that need to be processed and need to get out the door to meet the necessary service standards. And so this is going to allow them to help tailor staffing plans and do all kinds of other things that are going to help them improve service performance and delivery. And then the final and third phase of the Informed Visibility platform is going to be the one that is really going to be the external focus for the mailing industry. And as you can see, those are going to be later in the process. Right now, with the target time frame for these is going to be beginning to spring of next year, when the industry will actually start being able to see and start working with this new Informed Visibility platform.
All right, thanks, Bob. So,
Yep.
after kind of going through the history of mail tracking and where things are headed, you're probably kind of wondering, what does this mean for me as a mailer or as a mail service provider? And really, the tracking abilities that are available through the IMB tracing, the full service intelligent mail services that they have available, really helps you answer that question of what happens after I've dropped the mail off at the post office. So there are a lot of questions that mailers could have that they can take action on, and that can help them to make a more reasonable campaign, a more effective campaign for their customers and for themselves. So these are things like, okay, I gave the mail to the post office. Have they started processing it? Is it on a processing equipment, or is it sitting in a corner somewhere? When am I going to start receiving a response? So, for example, if you have a mailing campaign that's going to generate a lot of phone calls, you need to know how to staff your call center and make sure that everyone is ready to go and to answer those calls. Another question, of course, is when will my mail be delivered? So especially if you're doing some type of a timed campaign, you've got some type of a timed sale, and you want to make sure that those customers get their coupon in time to actually make it into the store. Making sure that everything is tracking on schedule is very important. And also, if it is going to be late, you can start planning for that eventuality, and maybe you'll want to extend the time of that coupon or something along those lines, just to make sure that you have that high customer satisfaction.
Out of curiosity, Kim, if it is this a one-way street? So you're told, or you spot that your mail is held up in the system. Is there some recourse then?
Yeah, so what you can do, unfortunately, you can't get a rebate on your postage. There's no guarantee for mail time delivery, so unfortunately we won't have that available. But you can start contacting the facilities that are running behind. So, for example, if you know that you've got a pallet of mail and it's been stuck in Chicago for 3 days and it needs to go out, you can call the Chicago facility and say, "Hey, I've got this pallet that's there. We need to get it processed. Could you please, kind of get this expedited?" And you can go through the business service network, the BSN at the post office, and try and get that mail the attention that it needs. We've had a couple rocky months in the last couple months, starting in January, when they kind of changed up the entire operating clock for all of the processing facilities, and so there have been some significant changes to the way that mail processing has been handled just in the last couple months, and we saw, especially with standard mail, even SCF entered standard mail was taking 2 to 3 days before this operational clock change. And after the change, it's now taking 4 to 5 days. So that can make a big difference when you're trying to time a mailing for a specific date, especially with standard mail. You've got that timeliness factor if it's some type of a limited time offer that you're sending out. making sure that that's timed properly
But
is
at least with
super
tracking,
important.
I'm aware of that problem rather than the black hole Bob mentioned.
Yeah, and you can be proactive about it. If something's running late, then you can actually plan for that eventuality, and you can make sure that when they come into the store and say, "Hey, my coupon is expired, but I just got it today," you can say, "Hey, this is okay. We're extending it for another couple of days because the mail was late." Or you can start tracking these facilities over time across all of your mailings, and you can start realizing that, okay, maybe maybe Memphis has been really good and they've been delivering things in 2 days, and maybe we've got some place, and maybe Milwaukee is running slow, so maybe I'll want to enter my mail sooner in Milwaukee, and then I can pause a little bit on entering in Memphis, and then that way everything kind of arrives at the correct time, and then that way we're making sure that we're having the best experience for that mail recipient. So there's a lot of really good use cases for this, and for mail service providers. I mean, obviously you're used to kind of turning those jobs around fairly quickly, but you're also looking at opportunities to expand your business and to offer more services to your customers, and so mail tracking is starting to become a fairly well known service within the mail owner uh, demographic there. And so that's something to start looking at, is what offerings are your services of services are your competitors offering right now, and what can you offer to give you that competitive edge and give your customers that little bit of extra love that they need to help them come back for more.
And we've become used to the idea of tracking. Most of the major package services at this point are able to give us scans that you can go online and see when your package is coming. So the idea of tracking is, well, it's a matter. It was just a matter of time until it came into the mail stream.
Yeah, and as far as the post office goes, the actual work to implement this wasn't terribly difficult because they do have all this automation equipment that all of these letters and flats get run on. Obviously, we're not going to get scan events for those really special pieces that can't go through the automation equipment.
Can I still mail children, Bob? Did they do away with that rule?
No, no, you cannot do that
Okay.
anymore.
Well,
Yeah, so but that for those people who are very familiar with the whole idea of scanning, there is something that Bob mentioned that I want to kind of call back to, and this is not exactly like what you would see with a package tracking. You're not going to get an event this is on your doorstep, because the technology hasn't been built out yet. The mail carrier isn't actually physically scanning each mail piece as they're putting it into your mailbox, but you do get that notification today that mail has been prepared and it's basically in the carrier's truck and going out for delivery that day. And then with the geofencing, you will get that notification that they've crossed through that delivery area, and that should be in the mailbox. But we're still not going to get that at the door scan or in the mailbox scan that you would with a package. But even getting an out for delivery scan is enough to give you the information to say, okay, this mail is ready to go. It should be delivered today. I should staff my call centers, or this mail is on time, or even just knowing that mail is ready and out there. And there have actually been some cases where people have used the IMB tracing information to prove from a legal sense that their mail was sent out. So, for example, in a legal or an insurance type of a situation where you're trying to contact people and make sure that everything is on time, using those IMB scans have actually been used in court cases to show that this mail was actually sent, and there's enough trust in the delivery engine that is the USPS that was considered to be valid, that they had sent out their notification in time, and then the case was kind of progressed from there.
it's also going to be reassuring for a customer if you're a mail service provider and a customer says, people aren't getting my mail.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's your word against the USPS, but of course, if you can pull up the scans and demonstrate that not only did you get them into the stream, but they got as far as Milwaukee before it got hung up, you can very easily say this is a USPS problem, and I'll call on your behalf.
Yeah, it can be kind of an insurance policy for those mail service providers to show that really you are doing your job, and that it's not you causing those service delays. So let's talk a little bit about why you would use a service versus writing your own engine. So Bob talked a little bit about the raw data that is generated through IMB tracing, and basically you're just getting a series of text files. You're getting one either every hour or every 6 hours, depending on how you set up your profile with the post office, and basically you're getting all the scans for all of the mail that was sent with your mailer ID that's out in the mail stream today. So it's not even broken out by mailing. And so the trouble is how do you get that information into something that's actionable and intelligible? So you could build your own system. There are people who are out there who have done that. They've taken that information and put together some reports that make sense for them. Obviously, there's some overhead for writing that yourself. But you can use, there are many services that are out there available, and we're going to go into the one that Satori Software has available here in just a minute. The nice thing with using a service is it's already integrated with the software that you're using today, and all of the data collection and the analyzing and everything just happens automatically on the back end, and it's going to adjust for any of the changes. So with all the changes that they're making for informed visibility, they're adding in all these additional scan points, which means there are different codes and they mean different things. Keeping up with those changing formats is something that's going to take a little bit of overhead if you write your own system. If you use a service, they're going to do that for you, and then you'll be able to rely on that service. And another thing that you can do with doing a service versus writing your own is you can offer a login to your customers. So for our EasyTrack service, if you use Bulk Mailer Business and you have your client set up, you can actually offer your clients their own login, and they'll be able to look at their mailings and none of your other customers' mailings.
So that's an important point. So now instead of the customer coming to me and saying, my mailing is late, what did you do? They can actually check themselves.
Exactly. It gives them access, and it gives them the peace of mind that their mail is out there in the network and it's being processed, and they can see, if they want to log in at 1 o'clock in the morning, they can go in and see, okay, well, this mail, I've got a whole pallet that just got processed on an SCF in Chicago.
Well, it's a labor-saving device for me as well, because if the customers can check for themselves and see that if their mail is stuck in Milwaukee, then I don't have to answer that question.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep. Self-service. It's the way that a lot of things are going these days. So it's really nice to be able to offer those to your customers. So let's talk a little bit about EasyTrack. EasyTrack is Satori Software's mail stream monitoring service, and it's integrated directly into your existing either bulk mailer or architect product that you have today. So here we've got a screenshot from bulk mailer, and basically all you do is after you've purchased the add-on, you'll have an option when you're setting up your intelligent mail barcodes to use EasyTrack. And so the nice thing here is by selecting it right when you're sorting, everything's going to be done automatically for you. It's going to generate those unique sequence numbers. It's going to make sure that the mailer ID is correct and that it's been set up properly to use IMB tracing. We'll also be selecting, we'll also make sure that all the barcodes are formatted and that everything is uploaded to our servers. So our servers are ready to start capturing those scans as soon as they're ready to go. I should talk a little bit more about the mailer ID. By default, you'll actually be using Satori Software's mailer ID. We have one that's already been configured, and the post office knows that all the scans that have to do with that mailer ID need to be sent to Satori, and then we use some algorithms on the back end to break them out into which mailings go with which barcodes. If you'd like to use your own mailer ID, we do have that service available. It's free with your subscription to EasyTrack. Just send us your mailer ID and we'll make sure that's all set up to get all the scans sent over. So by default, when we set up that mailing information, we're going to be sending over just the barcode information and the mailing kind of like a little boilerplate about the mailing name and some other identifying features. But we're not actually going to be sending anything to do with the actual names and addresses themselves unless you select to do so. So what you can do is you can add additional fields that get uploaded to our servers. And by doing that, you can actually search for those pieces once you've actually got all the tracking information. And we'll go into that in a little bit more detail here in a minute. So after you've sorted, all of your barcodes will be generated and you can print those out, and then you get that mail off into the mail stream. So once you've got your mail out into the mail stream, the next place that you're going to go is going to be the EasyTrack dashboard, which is just on the track page here in Bulk Mailer. And so you'll have access to a snapshot report and then also to the EasyTrack Complete portal. So EasyTrack Snapshot is an all-you-can-eat service. So basically what it allows you to do is it allows you to generate the snapshot report. And what this does is it shows all of the scans and all the deliveries for your mailing across the time that mailing is being processed. So it's not going to give you the piece level detail. It's not going to give you a breakout on all of the different facilities that are processing that mail, but it does give you access to see exactly when that mail is delivered, so you can make sure that everything is on time, and then also that you have your center staff there. It's also a good proof of mailing report, so you can show your customer, hey, this mailing was really dropped because here are all the scans that are happening for it. Another variant of EasyTrack is called EasyTrack Complete. And what it is in addition to the snapshot report, you have an access to a comprehensive set of online reports. And there are all these different customizations that you can do there. There's the single piece lookup. You can look up the information based on the facility. And you also get that login information for your customers. If you're a mail service provider and want to provide them their own user ID and password, that's available, and that's only available with Bulk Mailer Business. So let's take a look at the EasyTrack Complete website. It's just easytrack.satorisoftware.com. And after you log in, you'll be set up in the dashboard area. So the first thing you'll see on the dashboard is going to be a little overview of all the mailings that you've done. And so what it'll say is, on average, based on your mail class, how long is it taking for your mail to get delivered? And so here you'll see that my mailings are mostly standard mail, and they're taking about 7.6 days. We don't do a lot of drop shipments, so it takes a little bit longer for our mailings to get processed here. And if you scroll down on that page, you'll see a job summary. And this is just going to be your most recent mailings. And you'll also have a quick access to the most common reports directly on this dashboard screen. So if you want even more reporting capabilities, you'll go into the reports section. And here's where you can view a huge number of predefined reports that are available here. You can also set up your own custom reports. So if you don't see a predefined report that you really would like to see, you can actually set up your own. You can have it be by piece level or by facility type, and there's a huge amount of customization there.
Are you saying that if I do 1,000,000 piece mailing, I can look at where the path that one piece took?
Yes. Yeah, and I'll show you here in just a minute about how you can access that single piece lookup. And it's really nice. So especially if you have Jane Doe and she said, hey, I need my piece, you can actually look it up and see exactly where it is on its journey there through the mail stream.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's really nice because you'll be able to have that confidence that mail is really getting where it needs to be. So if you have those people who are like, well, I didn't get the bill, you can show them, yep, you really did. So let's take a look at some of the reports that we have here. So here's one that's one of the predefined reports, and this is a breakout of all the job scans that were performed by SCF. So this is a bit of an eye chart here. The text is a little bit small, but you'll see on the left-hand side you've got a list of all the SCFs and the NDCs there, and on the right-hand side you'll see how many delivery days. So this is how long it's taking to process mail at each of these facilities, and you'll see that the numbers actually vary pretty widely based on the facility. So those ones that are taking a little bit longer, you can go ahead and give them a call, contact them, and say, hey, what's going on over there, because things are looking like they're a little bit slow. So here's another report that shows all of your scans across the days of your mailings, and the red line that you see there is actually the number of pieces that were delivered. An interesting thing that you see there is you kind of see the little dip that happens just on the fourth day there, the fourth and fifth day. And what that is sometimes the carrier will go out with the mail, and sometimes they'll have to bring a little bit back at the end of the day. So then it'll get resorted and re-pushed out the next day. And then here's another report that's kind of interesting. You can have a breakout of all the pieces that have been delivered late. So, yeah. So you
Huh.
can see exactly.
This is the one that causes your blood pressure to go up.
Well, this is your trouble report, right? This is the ones that you're going to need to do some triage on, and obviously if this report is rather long, you're probably going to have to do some damage control, but this at least gives you the information to be able to make those decisions before your customers start calling.
It says something about accountability here, that the USPS is willing to reveal this, particularly with the delivery problems that they've been having. The idea that now suddenly we at Satori Software could empower hundreds of mailers to be upset about specifics about what happened to their mail.
Yeah. And
they must be planning to fix these delivery problems, because they're not going to want to hear this every day.
Yeah, they've been, they've definitely heard the industry, because, our customers who have been tracking their mail definitely saw a dip starting in January when they made that processing change, and if you could hear the conciliatory tone when we were at NPF.
Well, it's not just anecdotal anymore. It's not just my customers feel like it, or it's taking longer to mail things, etc. It's, hey, would you check this one out? This facility seems to be dropping the ball.
Yep, exactly. There's a huge amount of data there that's really powerful to help motivate the different centers. And the post office is actually using this information as well, because they're actually taking this information and they have their own reports on the back end to see which facilities are doing, and they have this whole process they call work in progress, and they call it WIP, WIP, and they actually do a monitoring of all the different facilities based on what their work in progress.
This is like a nanny cam for the USPS.
I can't say that the employees have been entirely thrilled by it.
I would imagine so.
But it has been until the January change in things. It was a really significant improvement in service. And so a couple of years ago, when they started really paying attention to these numbers, customers saw the delivery times tighten up significantly, and a lot of facilities that were slacking off, they got some attention, and they started shaping up.
It's going to be hard to hide.
Yep. It's good. Data is definitely good for the mailers.
Well, and one of the things that we also need to keep in mind too is the Postal Service is using this same data because they're required to report to the PRC how well they are doing in terms of meeting service standards, and they have to do this on a quarterly basis. And so when they generate their reports for the PRC, it is this same data that they are using.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think they're proposing now to actually change their service standard measurement from the manual piece sampling to actually using the scans from the intelligent mail barcodes to show that what their delivery times are. So that'll be an interesting thing to see if that's approved.
Right.
So I wanted to show you another report. This is probably my favorite one just because I like things that are pretty. But this is a map report that's integrated inside of EasyTrack. And so for each mailing, what you can see is a really visual way of seeing exactly how your mailing is progressing. And as you log in each day, these values are going to change, and you'll see the colors change as well. So here you'll be able to see that the green indicates that those pieces are early. Blue indicates that those pieces are in window for the type of mail that you're sending. So for first class mail, it's going to be 3 to 5 days. And for standard mail, it'll be 7 to 10 days is about average for standard mail. And then if you do have any of your mail that's running late, it'll be highlighted in a bright red. So it's a really easy way for you to see exactly what's happening with your mail. And in this map, I have broken out into the SCFs and NDCs. So you can actually drill in, and you can actually see each of the individual SCFs and NDCs. You can drill into the 3-digit level and also down to the zip code level, and you can see exactly which areas are doing well, which areas are running behind, and then that gives you a different view into how those facilities are processing that mail. So another thing that Rob alluded to earlier is that ability to look up each individual mail piece. So again, by default, we're just going to be grabbing the information that has to do with the intelligent mail barcode. But if you choose to, you can upload the name and address information, or also if you have an account number or some other unique number that you'd like to upload as well, you can upload that information and then you can search on it individually. So if you want to make sure that your end customer actually received that mail, you can enter that information, you can search for it, and then all the information from all your mailings that matches that search criteria will pop up. So you can. So I've got a couple different mailings here that were sent out, and they were both sent to John Cord. So if I drill into one of those here, it's going to show me that mail piece, where it was headed, and it's also going to show me all the scans that happened for that mail piece. So you'll see here it started out in New Jersey and it got sorted out for delivery. And then what happened was it actually got rerouted because this person had moved, and then it went out for delivery at his final location. And at the bottom there's a pretty easy to use map. This is kind of, if you're familiar with Google Maps, you'll feel very at home with this whole service here. And it shows the whole progression of that mail piece as it goes throughout the mail center.
That is cool.
Yeah, it is kind of cool because you can drill in, because it's just like a Google map. So you can actually drill in and you can actually see the house itself if you want to do that.
Huh.
It's kind of neat.
It's really neat.
Yeah. So if you have that person who says, "Hey, I didn't get my mail," you can say, "Yeah, you actually did get that mail. It was sorted for delivery on Tuesday, and it looks like you're."
And here's a picture of you opening your mailbox. No, not quite.
Not quite that detailed, but. But it does, it does give you a visibility into the area that it was delivered to. So if it looks like a parking lot that it was delivering to, then maybe that might be something to look at your address quality. But if you can see the house and see that, okay, maybe their mailbox is out of the way or something like that, you can say, "Hey, have you actually checked your mailbox today?" And then you can kind of have that conversation.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So we kind of went through the history and we went through the integration that we have with EasyTrack. And really for mailers and for mail service providers, tracking gives a significant advantage in today's changing market. There's a lot of expectation from a marketing aspect today to be very, very proactive and very integrated with how your marketing campaigns are doing. And tracking allows you that ability to be very proactive, to know where the mail is, and to actually schedule any of those follow-up activities. So, for example, if you're doing a multi-channel campaign and you want to follow up the mail delivery with an email or a phone call or some type of a social media campaign, you can actually time it based on the tracking trends that you see. So you can contact that customer and say, "Hey, check your mailbox today. There's a coupon in it. We think it's a really good deal, and here's a shirt that you might want to buy." Another thing that you can do with this information is, as you're tracking this information over time, you start to see those trends of, okay, this facility processes early, this facility runs a little bit behind, and you can actually plan your drop shipments to match with those expectations, and then you have a more consistent delivery. You can make sure that mail is delivered on time according to what your needs are.
We've come a long way since the days that the mail was stamped with "Postmaster, please deliver between," and then it had a couple of dates.
Yeah, and the post office doesn't do that anymore. It wasn't terribly reliable, that system anyway, and so the onus is on the mailer now to time that. And the way to do that is to look at the historical data and see exactly which facilities are running early and which ones are running late, so that you can time those mailings to make sure that your mail is delivered in a timely fashion. If you've got a weekend sale and you really want to get those customers in on Saturday, then the coupon better be on the mail no later than Friday. Mm-hmm. And Monday might be a little bit too early. So being able to time just right is super important in today's environment. And for mail service providers, it gives that extra peace of mind. If you give them that their own login, they can actually go in and they can see that, yes, you did drop that mail on time and that it's in the mail stream and they're just waiting on the post office.
All right. So this webinar, actually, go ahead, enter your questions into the box on the right-hand side of your screen. We've got them rolling in here, so we'll be taking those questions and presenting them to Bob and Kim in just a moment here. This webinar is part of our Getting the Most Out of Bulk Mailer webinar series. We've actually got a extended set of webinars that we're doing. Bulk mailer, it turns out, has a whole lot of really cool features that, Kim, you can attest to this. Sometimes people don't even know they're there.
Yeah.
There are sections you get settled in, you get your process going, and you don't click on the tabs that, well, I didn't think that tab applied to me. And there's a lot of neat things hiding in there. So we're doing this webinar series to expose those. The next one that we've got coming up is going to be Thursday, July 9th. So we're taking just a little break between now and then, but I think Kim and Bob are back for this one. It's called Building Your Bulk Mailer Services. And well, there's a whole ton of functionality, like I said, within bulk mailer that people are missing out on. And in the address quality area specifically, that's the bulk mailer services that we're talking about, there's a section labeled Data Services. You'll see that down there in the corner. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that people don't even know about. You can do suppression. You can hit do not mail lists. You can, there's just a ton of stuff in there. And so we're going to do a whole webinar to talk a little bit about the data services component of the address quality section of bulk mailers. So you can sign up for that on the SatoriSoftware.com website. Same place you signed up for this webinar. It's called Building Your Bulk Mailer Services, and it's going to be Thursday, July 9th. So a Thursday webinar. Kim, I know you like those because they kind of kick off the weekend for you.
That's right.
All right. Excuse me. So we've got some questions coming in here. Let's go ahead and start throwing these out. Hey, Bob, can the USPS change the IMB number a customer generates after the mail has been sent out?
I'm not aware of them changing that IMB number. That's that unique license plate, that flows all the way through the Postal Service. Part of the full service mailing is a requirement that, that must be maintained unique for a 45-day period. So I am not aware of situations where the Postal Service would be changing that.
Yeah, I want to chime in a little bit on that just to kind of to clarify. So the part of the intelligent mail barcode that stays unique is actually the first 20 characters. So that's going to be the service type ID, your mailer ID, and your sequence number. So those numbers shouldn't change. Sometimes what'll happen though is your mail does get forwarded, and so the last 11 digits of the barcode are your zip code, and the zip code and the +4 and delivery point. And so that information can change, but that doesn't affect your tracking. So in the piece look example that we looked at, that piece did get forwarded, and when it did get a new IMB, but it was only the last 11 digits that changed. And so what happens is within tracking systems like EasyTrack, we only pay attention to those first 20 characters because those are going to be the ones that uniquely identify that mail piece.
Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Yes or no? EasyTrack.
Oh, Puerto Rico is difficult. So they don't have a lot of equipment down there. And then also when they do, they don't always process it. They don't have a ton of mail that gets processed down there. So it's been spotty. It's mainly only for letters. So that is something to kind of point out just as a general scope here, is that really we're only getting scans for places where the piece is going through equipment. So if you're talking about periodicals in a bundle, so periodical flats, generally if that's sorted to a carrier route, that's not going to go on automation equipment. That's when you would get a bundle scan, not a piece scan. So you kind of have to be careful about what areas actually do get those scans, and generally letters tend to have the most frequency. They're the ones that have the highest scan rates. Flats a little bit less. So, and then of course the fancier your flat is, the more difficult it is to run on automation equipment, the less likely that it will be processed there. So we do get some scans out of Puerto Rico, but it's not as reliable as you'd hope it would be. It's not as reliable as other facilities.
Is it safe to assume that perhaps the USPS is going to be correcting that since they're expanding the reach?
They've definitely been adding scan events. They've been adding different equipment, but again, it's all running on that equipment. So for those pieces that are not being run on equipment, you won't get those scans in Puerto Rico or any other facility.
Okay.
But as the Postal Service expands the bundle scanning capabilities, which is a new area, as different offices get that down and become a standardized process, I do think we'll see more of those types of events starting to pick up.
Right.
But yeah, you're correct.
Okay, going back to the beginning of the presentation here, is EasyTrack the same as IMB tracing, or is it different, or does it use that? Can we
What's
break
the
this down?
connection?
Yeah, what's the connection here?
So IMB tracing is the USPS provisioning of that raw data. So that those raw files that Bob showed earlier that have just the event and the date and time and the piece that was scanned, that is what IMB tracing is just getting that raw data. What EasyTrack does is it takes that data and it puts it into those easy to read reports. So it's the analysis of that data.
So we have a listener here pointing out that sometimes mail delays are due to shipping vendor errors as well. Because I picked on the USPS there. So yes, that is true. There's a lot of reasons why mail gets held up.
Yeah, and as mail service providers, we should be honest with our customers, and we should be upfront about the times that maybe our logistics provider didn't deliver on time, and making sure that we're honest with that integration and that communication with our customers is going to help engender trust with our customer. And if we own up when something was our fault, then they're going to trust that the next time we're going to make it right.
Makes good sense. And this next question is sort of related. It comes up every time we talk about a product, and they want to know what EasyTrack costs. And the best bet is actually give the number on the screen a call. Our sales folks will kind of walk you through suitability. They'll take a look at where we stand, make sure it fits for you. And unfortunately, there's so many variables that come into pricing that I can't speak for Bob, but I know neither Kim nor I are ever allowed to touch a price list because we might actually say something.
Yeah, so you'll definitely want to contact your sales representative. We definitely tailor the pricing to your needs. So contact your sales representative, and they'll be able to take a look at what your needs are, whether you need just the snapshot report, whether you need the complete access, whether you need access for your clients, and then also your volumes to come up with a number that's going to be right for you.
And one of the things that we've talked about in the preceding webinars is calling our sales folks. They're going to help you they want you as a long-term customer, so they're not going to try to sell you something you don't need. So call up. We've had really good luck with people saying, hey, I need this, I don't need this. They do a quick analysis of where you're at, and they make a recommendation, but we don't do the pressure thing here. It's not going to be, you need the whole meal deal, and it turns out you don't. So feel free to give them a call. I know it's worked out really well. We've gotten a lot of really favorable feedback on that. But here in the broadcast booth, they don't give us a price list, mainly because, well, Kim and I would put everything on sale. That sounds great to me, right?
Yeah,
because we want everybody to use it.
Yeah, it's a really powerful feature.
The presentation that you have seen here will be available up on satorisoftware.com. You can go to the webinar section, and same place that the recording will be. In addition to that, sometime tomorrow you'll get a thank you for attending mail, and there'll be a link in that'll take you to both the presentation and the recording of the webinar, so you can pass it along to friends and family or relive Kim's presentation if you'd like, or Bob's presentation. But yes, to answer that question, the presentation, the PowerPoint will actually be available, so you'll get to see all Kim and Bob's artwork there. Bob, you got any last thoughts for us before we move on?
No, but it's been a fun web event, and I was glad I was able to join remotely.
It's always good to have you in from La Crosse, kind of a different point of view.
Right.
Thanks to Bob Shimmick, Senior Director of Postal Affairs for Satori Software. Bob, thank you for joining us from La Crosse. And Kim Mock, our Senior Product Manager, thank you for actually coming into the studio, making yourself comfortable. I hope that chair was okay.
Yeah, it was great.
Good.
Thanks.
It's always good to have you guys in here. I do want to thank everyone for joining us today, and I want to let you know that you're going to be presented with a brief survey. as soon as we end this webinar. And we'd really love for you to take that. That's how we improve our webinar series. We want to make sure that these webinars are targeting things you're interested in and that we're presenting them in a format that works for you. Please feel free to give us feedback. We'd love to get that. We want to make sure that these things are targeted. They are for you. So please fill out the survey. That's the best way for us to improve. As I mentioned, this webinar and the slides from it will be posted up on satorisoftware.com. So that'll be up there sometime this afternoon. For Satori Software, I'm Rob Perrin, the Director of Multimedia Marketing. Once again, we would like to thank you for attending this webinar. On behalf of all of us here at Satori, I'd like to wish you smooth mailing ahead.